The first time she laughed at him was the moment she unknowingly put her entire billion-dollar empire in the hands of the man she thought was beneath her. No one in the city moved with more confidence than the young CEO who owned half the skyline. She was known for her sharp suits, sharp words, and sharp habit of dismissing anyone she considered unimportant. Her life was a long list of victories, over competitors, over critics, even over people who once tried to humble her. She believed she was unstoppable, untouchable, and undoubtedly the smartest person in any room. And this belief only grew stronger the day she hired a new driver, a quiet man who spoke very little and carried himself like someone who had no place in the glittering world she ruled. He arrived on a rainy Monday morning, standing beside the black car with perfect posture and an unreadable expression. She barely looked at him before stepping into the vehicle, already judging him by his plain clothes and gentle presence. She thought he was just another ordinary man trying to make a living, someone she would forget by dinner. She didn't know that the world had a strange way of flipping itself inside out, that the people who walked silently beside you could sometimes be the ones who saved you from crashing. From the beginning, she mocked him in small ways. She talked on the phone about him as if he couldn't hear. She rolled her eyes when he spoke with a soft accent. She assumed he knew nothing about the world she moved in, deals worth billions, partnerships that shaped global markets, negotiations so delicate that one wrong word could make everything fall apart. She kept treating him like part of the car, useful, silent, invisible. But he never reacted, not once. He drove smoothly, opened doors with calm respect, and carried an aura of patience that almost irritated her. People who didn't fight back made her uneasy. People who didn't admire her made her even more uneasy. She couldn't understand why someone like him didn't seem desperate to impress her. In her world, everyone wanted something. Yet this man wanted nothing, not even recognition. Months passed, and she barely learned his name. But he learned everything about her. The long nights, the back-to-back meetings, the way she clenched her jaw when deals slipped away, the way she hid exhaustion behind expensive makeup. He knew her better than most people in her boardroom. But he kept his distance, observing quietly, absorbing quietly, living in the spaces she never thought anyone noticed. The real turning point arrived on the morning of her most important deal yet, an international merger worth over $1 billion. If she managed to secure it, her company would become a global giant overnight. If she failed, everything she built would crumble. Investors were restless, rivals were circling, and the media was already predicting chaos. This deal wasn't just a business move. It was her legacy. She needed to meet a foreign delegation flying in from 3 different countries. These partners were powerful, traditional, and easily offended. They valued respect, language, and cultural understanding. The smallest insult could end negotiations instantly. She spent weeks memorizing a few phrases in their languages, hoping it would be enough. But beneath her confidence, she was terrified. On the morning of the meeting, she rushed into the car, nerves wrapped tight like wires inside her chest. She barely noticed that her driver watched her through the mirror with unusual focus. He could feel her panic even if she tried to hide it. The car moved through the city, slicing past traffic, carrying her toward a destiny she believed she controlled. When they arrived at the towering hotel where the meeting would take place, she stepped out with her usual cold confidence. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted, and security swarmed. But inside, chaos was already unfolding. The delegates had arrived early, and they were furious. A misunderstanding had taken place. The documents had been translated incorrectly by her team. The phrasing insulted the cultural values of one group, and the financial section offended another. Voices rose. Tempers climbed. The entire atmosphere turned electric with tension, and she felt sweat form at the back of her neck. She tried to explain, but every word she spoke only made things worse. Her memorized phrases came out awkward. Her tone sounded cold. The delegates spoke rapidly to each other in languages she did not understand, and she felt the entire deal slipping through her fingers like water she couldn't hold. Her stomach dropped. Her vision blurred. The billion-dollar empire she fought for her entire life was collapsing, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. She looked around desperately, searching for her team, for anyone who could help, any translator, any advisor, any miracle. But everyone had gone silent. No one could understand what was being said. No one could repair the damage. And the delegates were preparing to walk out. That was the moment her driver stepped forward. She didn't even notice him at first. He had removed his hat, straightened his jacket, and moved toward the delegates with calm confidence that shocked everyone. Security tried to stop him until one delegate paused, recognizing one of the languages he spoke. Because the driver, her quiet, invisible driver, did the impossible. He spoke to them, not in one language, not in two, but in nine flawless, fluid languages that flowed like water, shifting from one to another depending on whom he faced. The room went silent. Even the CEO froze, her mouth slightly open, disbelief washing over her like cold rain. He read the documents, explained the misunderstandings, corrected the offensive phrasing, and rewrote the terms in a way that honored each culture. His voice remained gentle yet firm, and the delegates, who had been seconds away from ending everything, began to relax. Their expressions softened, their anger dissolved, their interest returned. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't brag. He didn't hesitate. He simply handled the situation with the kind of grace, intelligence, and emotional understanding the CEO had never seen in her own boardroom. In minutes, the disaster she couldn't fix with all her power was turned into a miracle by the man she thought had nothing to offer. The deal was saved. The delegates signed the agreement. Reporters outside went wild, calling it the negotiation of the decade. And the CEO? She stood there, feeling the ground shift beneath her feet, realizing how small she had been despite her enormous world. She felt the sting of shame, the weight of realization, the bitter truth that she had judged a man by his job, not his ability. She remembered every time she had laughed at him, every dismissive gesture, every moment she had treated him like he wasn't worthy of respect. But he didn't look at her with anger. He simply nodded politely, stepped back, and allowed her to take the spotlight as if he hadn't just saved her entire empire. As if he wasn't the only reason she still had a company. For the first time in her career, she felt unworthy of applause. The car ride home was different. She sat quietly in the backseat, absorbing everything. The rain tapped softly against the windows as the city lights blurred like streaks of emotion she couldn't name. She watched him through the mirror, noticing the depth in his eyes, the calm in his movements, the dignity she had missed all this time. She wondered who he really was. She wondered what life had shaped someone so brilliant yet so humble. She wondered why someone who spoke 9 languages would choose to drive a car for someone who never saw him. But most of all, she wondered how someone she treated so poorly could still choose kindness. When they reached her home, she stepped out slowly. Instead of rushing inside, she turned back toward him. There were no jokes, no arrogance, no laughter, just a quiet, heavy respect. And somewhere in that moment, the world shifted again. Because success had taught her how to climb. But her driver had taught her how to see. The next day, everything changed. She offered him a new position at the company, one worthy of his skills, one that paid more than her highest-ranked executives. Not because she owed him, but because she recognized the truth. Talent isn't defined by titles, brilliance isn't defined by appearance, and intelligence isn't defined by the seat you occupy. Some people sit in the front of a car. Some people sit in the back. But wisdom, humility, and greatness, they can sit anywhere. She spent the next months rebuilding herself from the inside out. She apologized to people she once dismissed. She listened more than she spoke. She learned to value every person, because the universe had shown her that the ones we overlook often carry the keys to our greatest breakthroughs. And every time she walked past her driver, now a high-ranking cultural liaison and global communications expert, she felt grateful. Not just because he saved her billion-dollar deal, but because he saved her from becoming the kind of leader who gained the world but lost her humanity. Her company rose higher than ever. Their partnership with the international delegates flourished. The media celebrated the CEO's miraculous turnaround, but only she knew the truth. It wasn't her miracle, it was his. And sometimes, late at night, she would think back to that rainy morning when she first laughed at him. She wished she could go back and shake her past self, warn her of the arrogance, tell her to open her eyes. But life had already delivered the lesson in the most poetic way possible. The driver she thought was beneath her was the very man who lifted her higher than anyone else ever could. And in that final, quiet truth, she learned what real success meant. Not power, not fame, not money, but respect, for every human being, no matter where they stand. Because one day, the person you judge may be the person who saves everything you built. And when that day comes, the only thing that matters is the heart you showed when you thought no one important was watching.